Once again, welcome back to the program. आज ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਬਰੂਸ ਰੈਲਸਟਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ NDP ਦੇ ਇੱਕ MLA ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ ਕ੍ਰਿਟਿਕ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਇਹ ਲੰਮੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਐਜ਼ MLA ਸਰਵ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਕਿ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੋ ਸਮੇਂ ਸਥਿਤੀ ਬਣੀ ਪਈ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਫੋਲੋ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਿਸ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਏ ਤੋਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਨੇ। Let's welcome Bruce Ralston and talk to him about how the situation is presently in British Columbia and the policies which are being adopted by the government as far as the Enbridge is concerned or the job situation is concerned. So whether they feel that the initiatives which have been taken by the government, are they enough or something more needs to be done? Welcome to the program.
Great, thanks for inviting me.
Thanks. So Bruce, as far as, let's start with the job situation in British Columbia. The present reports which have come are showing that the government initiatives, whatever they are taking, are you satisfied by that, or do you feel something more needs to be done by that?
Well, the most recent report from Statistics Canada showed job loss in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And over 14,000 jobs in the most recent Stats Can report.
Right.
And that's troubling because it's almost 1 year since the government launched its so-called jobs plan. And frankly, it doesn't seem to be working out very well.
So, but the government on the other hand is saying that it is working and we are trying to reach those areas where earlier jobs were not being created and going, you know, deep inside British Columbia and trying to create jobs. So what do you think, what more needs to be done?
Well, clearly that's to be expected that they would say that, but that doesn't really fit with the facts. And what I think we're seeing is one of the major problems with the approach that they've taken is they haven't devoted enough time to education, post-secondary education and job training.
Right.
And when Adrian and I meet with business people wherever in the province, one of the first things that they talk about is the shortage or the expected shortage of skilled labor. And for the jobs of the future, people will need to be trained, yet the government doesn't have a good plan to help not only students, our children, but our fellow citizens to get the kind of training for the jobs of the future.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about construction, because a lot of South Asians are involved in this sector, and the reports which are coming are also talking about the softening of the market. And when we talk about this, especially in the Vancouver area, there also with the HST being revoked in next year, so now the market has absolutely stopped. Now, do you think that enough has been done to educate the public also, because the market is just has stopped and people are waiting till the next year even if they have to buy? So what are your proposals on this? Should the government act and work on this particular issue, or you think that what they have announced and in next year when this is revoked, then things will start happening again?
Well, the latest steps in the HST debacle are really just proof that that was a very bad policy. It was implemented badly, and we're still dealing with the consequences. We urge the government to get rid of the HST as soon as possible. It took 11 months to bring in, and it's taking 19 months to return. But for construction, people, the government has attempted to deal with that, but people know that fairly shortly, the HST will be coming off, and there is an expected impact on prices, although I don't think it will be as big as people think.
Right.
But it's just a continuing part of a very bad policy decision that the BC Liberals made, and in not telling the truth in the 2009 election, and ever since, I mean, they've lost, obviously, a lot of public confidence.
Right. What is your personal opinion about, and your party's opinion about this Enbridge issue and the government stance, what they are adopting? Is it the right stance, or there should be change in this?
Well, the Premier, Christy Clark, has had a number of different positions on this. One, she wasn't going to take a position, said it was too early, and more recently she's adopted a position which tries to have it all ways. But certainly what our caucus and our leader has said is that we view the Enbridge proposal, the Northern Gateway proposal, as bad for the British Columbia economy. In fact, most of the towns and villages in northern British Columbia, which the pipeline would come through directly, have expressed their opposition. And there are proposals for a strong regional economy, whether it's fishing, whether it's tourism, whether it's construction, whether there's a number of other proposals that could make for a better long-term economic future for that part of the province, rather than the way in which the Enbridge Gateway proposal is put right now.
Right, and let's talk a little bit about the Alberta Premier also talking about the we were talking, British Columbia Premier asked for royalty from them, and nothing is happening on that side also. So this also is a stall basically in the negotiations or for further progress. So what do you feel, what needs to be done on these kind of issues when two provinces side by side are not seeing eye to eye, and this can create some issues?
Well, clearly the dialogue between the two premiers has broken down, and that's probably not the best way to run a federal government. I think it's important that federal leaders, whether they're premiers or the Prime Minister, engage in an important dialogue. In a federal system, that's essential. So clearly, in my view, the position of the Premier is simply political posturing to regain some of the political ground that she's lost by refusing to take a position, indeed not presenting evidence, not within the deadlines to put British Columbia's position forward before the panel that's considering whether this thing will go ahead.
Economically, what we are seeing all across the world, that is having an impact all across. And being a finance critic, the policies which have been adopted by this government as far as finances are concerned, any particular take on that right now, that any initiative which they are saying we are trying to pump in more money and trying to, as you have very rightly said in the beginning also, that it's not having an impact as far as the jobs are concerned. But what about the other fields? Is our economy, BC economy, strong enough, or here also we are taking a hit?
Well, I think what the government likes to emphasize is their credit rating, but credit rating is only one measure of economic success. It's an important one, but it's only one measure.
Right.
I mean, here in British Columbia, I think incomes are the gap, the inequality gap between those at the top and those in the middle and bottom is widening. And we know from studies of social and economic inequality that the more unequal a society is in that respect, the more costs come to society in terms of to crime, joblessness, social upheaval, and generally the societies which are more equal are better societies for everyone, not just the top 5 or 10% of the population. So that's becoming a reality. It has consequences for the health of our citizens. I mean, there's a recent study that showed 1/4 of the people who are supposed to take prescriptions can't afford to have their prescriptions filled. That can't be a good thing, and we'll all pay for that in the health system down the road.
And with elections being less than a year left, and the opinion polls which are coming are showing that the people are not having much faith in the Liberal Party right now, and that's what the opinion polls are saying. Now, and when we talked to the Liberals, and especially the Premier, we had talked to her, and she said we don't give much emphasis to these opinion polls. What do you think about that? That these opinion polls, do they have some impact, or it's just it just fades away and public memory is short, and during the time of the election, if something is thrown to the public, and people will forget about it?
Well, I think clearly the BC Liberals have lost public confidence, but frankly, we are expecting the gap to narrow as we get closer to an election. British Columbia elections have always been close, and so we're certainly, and our leader is not taking anything for granted. I think we have to earn the trust of the people of British Columbia. We have to campaign, and that's what we're continuing to do. So you're right, the election is a long way away, and we've got a lot of work to do, and a lot of people that we want to meet, talk to, listen to, and develop our proposals before we get to an election.
Great. Thank you very much for your time and for your perspective.
Thank you very
coming
much
over
for
here and talking on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
ਅੱਜ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ, ਬਰੂਸ ਰੈਲਸਨ ਨੇ ਵੱਖਰੇ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਓਪੀਨੀਅਨਸ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਲਈਆਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ BC ਲਿਬਰਲਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਉਹ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਓਪੀਨੀਅਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਨੇ, ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਨੇ, ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ, ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਅੱਗੇ ਫਰਦਰ ਇਹ ਸਟੈਪ ਲੈਣਗੇ।